Hi, this is Greg Hartwig, and thanks for joining Game Changer episode number 2. Today we're going to be learning from Scott Anthony of Sagami and talking about why Sagami and why Swiss. Sagami is the #1 Swiss builder in the world, and we're very fortunate to represent them. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A section at the bottom. We're going to get to your questions at the end of the episode, and we look forward to talking with you all soon.
Hi, I'm Scott Anthony, Business Unit Manager with Tsugami REM Sales. Thanks for taking a few minutes with us today to talk about the benefits of CNC Swiss style turning and why partnering with Hartwig and Tsugami REM Sales is the right choice. So why CNC Swiss? The bottom line is it's 3 times faster than traditional machining methods. The ability to do turning and grooving and milling and thread whirling and off-center live tool operations and gear hobbing and thread rolling, cross drilling, slotting, boring, and drilling are all capabilities of this machine. It's not just a turning center, it's a machining center in the ultimate sense. So why should you take a look at Tsugami? Tsugami started in 1923. Their history is in manufacturing gauge blocks. So if you want to talk about a history, a culture of quality, there's no one like Tsugami. We have been partners with them since 1978 at REM Sales. We're the national importers. We bring the machines in from Sagami, and we keep roughly 250 machines in stock here in our East Coast headquarters. REM Sales operates out of 3 locations here in Connecticut, in Roselle, Illinois, and in Fullerton, California to support our distribution network. Every Sagami comes with a programming software that helps you, through building blocks, create the programs, create a simulation, create a cycle time estimate for the parts. It's really a great tool. It comes included with most every model, and it's at no cost. Able software. You can always step up and go into a Spree or part maker, but this is a rock-solid software program designed by Sagami for Sagami machines. One of the problems that we've addressed is bad bars. Sometimes you have to use an extruded bar or bad bar tolerance, and you can't always justify ground bar stock. So we came up with a product called SmartFlex guide bushing. It's an integral guide bushing that replaces the standard electronic guide bushing that allows some flexibility to grip and re-grip over these imperfections, plus or minus a few thou. The SmartFlex guide bushings allows you to use just about any material accurately and give you some better roundness in some cases. It's integral to the systems and overcomes a major obstacle when ground bar stock's just not a choice. Oftentimes, chip control in a small platform that Swiss typically is in, with these stringers causes problems. You have to stop, open the door, get in there, clean it out. That slows down manufacturing processes and requires an operator to be maintaining and babysitting a machine. And that is inefficient. So we came up with the Oscillation cutting, which is a software program that can be added to any machine. It is an option. And it can seamlessly create long stringy chips into small chips. In a nutshell, it's oscillating the signals and allowing you to cut chips in half of their typical cycle. So it's not a pectoral type program, it's a software program looking at the cycle of oscillation and then cutting that chip down from the stringer into small little parts you can hold in your hand. Quick change tooling. A lot of people talk about difficulty in setups. It takes a long time to set up a Sagami Swiss, and that's not the case at all. We have golden bought quick change tooling. Coolant through, you don't have a bunch of lines in there. You just do your presets offline, set up your tooling, change, close the lid, cycle, start, go. Along with quick change tooling, you have other options within the Sagami portfolio. And that's typically our automatic tool changers. And we have multiple models with automatic tool changers, our TMA8F, and we have our SS38M, We also have B-axis technology. We've been one of the innovators for both of those machines. And then we have a 32 millimeter SS327 with a B-axis. And then we have a 20 millimeter SS207 with a B-axis capability. These are innovations that I'm happy to say our competitors are trying to catch up to. The next step is really longevity. How do we keep the uptime for you? And we've been doing this. We keep parts on our shelves for 20 years for each model. We have about $7 million of parts. I think that brings us to about, 8,000 part numbers in these automated Remstar warehousing systems behind us. We have local support and service, and the benefit of having someone down the street that knows your business and can be there on site that day or within 24 hours with parts. It's very important for us when you invest with Tsugami and Hartwig that we are able to give you the confidence for a long-term relationship. These machines hit the floor, they last a long time, and they typically make babies. When someone has started with us, they don't just have one Tsugami. They'll have a 20 millimeter, they'll have a 32, they'll have an automatic tool changer, they'll have a B-axis machine, and they'll grow with us. Thanks very much for spending this time with me today. If you'd like some more information specifically on Sagami REM sales, www.remsales.com. We'll get to the website that has all of our information and everything Sagami on it. Of course, talk to your Hartwig specialist, and I'll turn it back to them for questions and answers. Thanks very much.
I just got a question here from his name's Stefan. Is the adjustable guide bushing mechanical or hydraulic? Matt Lamoureux, can you answer that question for us?
Sure, I can answer that. So it's actually a pneumatic system. It runs off of pressure settings, air pressure settings. So you can actually adjust that to whatever settings needed. So it has three positions. It has an open position. It has a normal guide bushing setting where it grips the stock but doesn't lock up on it. And then it has a clamp setting where it actually clamps the bar, which is very useful when you're doing milling with your Swiss.
That's great. Thank you. Another question. How difficult is it to implement the oscillating feature? Is it on a new machine? Is it part of training? Can we retrofit it? Can you explain that? Same, Matt?
Sure. So the oscillation feature is on new machines. So that feature, actually, let me pass this to Derek because Derek has some information on the some of the older models that might be relevant.
Great.
Make sure everybody can hear me here.
Yep, you're just fine.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Matt. So the oscillation cutting is for new machines. The FANUC control, this is kind of a combination. It's strictly software, but it's a combination of FANUC software and FANUC options and Sagami software that they kind of jive together to make this work. So it's on strictly new machines just because the FANUC control, this is new to them as well. So we have the FANUC control can only do so much on the newer machines. So this is strictly for new machines, and it's very easy to implement. We actually install the software and everything right on our make-ready floor while we're doing the alignments and things like that before the machine gets shipped to the customer floor. And if a customer purchases oscillation cutting, it is part of standard training. The engineer that would come in to do their training on their machine would also go over the oscillation cutting function and how it works and how to implement it into your program.
That's great. Hey, John or Stefan, from a commercial side, what does oscillating cutting cost?
List price on oscillation cutting is $15,000.
Okay, not bad.
List price.
Yeah, it's great. Okay.
Video here, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Next question. Do you have quick change tooling for milling tools? If so, would you set those tools offline with the presetter? I'm going to ask another applications guy, if that's all right.
I'll take this one, Greg, if you don't
Okay.
mind.
Sure.
We actually have some quick change tooling, especially that just came out. There's a couple of companies that have made it before, but it really hasn't blown up as big as we wanted it to. So we actually have one of our sister companies making some live tool cartridges, and they can actually, for the back working block and for the cross working tools, they can actually work for either one, and you can run ER16, ER11, or ER20 in those cartridges. So you can take one out. You put a different size in if you wanted to. Say you had a 1/2-inch end mill, you wanted to turn one of your ER16 stations into an ER20, you could do that as well. And those, you can actually purchase a presetter that can hold an ER11, ER16, or ER20 cartridge, and you can actually change those right outside. You can put it on a Zoller or a height gauge or anything like that and set it right outside the machine. Once you touch that off the first time during setup, you load that height, and then you can set everything offline and just load your cartridge in. One screw, you're good to go.
Perfect. Thanks, Derek.
You're welcome.
Let's go back to oscillating cutting. Does it also work with deep hole drilling?
Yes, actually, you
Yes.
can oscillate in deep hole drilling using the Z-axis on the machines.
Okay.
We've done some very small gun drills with oscillation. It works very well.
So we've had some experience with, I think it's called Triboman,
Yeah.
in some different applications. It's a deep hole drilling, kind of almost like a PEC cycle kind of a thing. I don't know if it's hypersonic or what it is, but is that a very similar type of technology? Can you explain the difference between the two of those?
So one uses an electronic signal, and so the Triboman uses an electronic signal to create a wave or a vibration in the tool holder that's holding the drill.
Mm-hmm.
Oscillation actually uses a frequency, so the feed of the machine, it will oscillate or do a sine wave on there. So it'll feed in, say, as an example, 1.5 thou, and then feed back a 1/2 thou to break the chip. So it's almost like you're going into peaks and valleys as you're cutting.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Derek can explain it a little better than I can, but that's how I understand it.
That's pretty accurate. I would say in the end result between the Triboman and the oscillation cutting is very similar. One is oscillating the holder through an electronic, like Matt said, electronic frequency, whereas the oscillation is creating a frequency due to motion of the servo motor itself.
Mm-hmm.
So both of them serve the same purpose.
Okay.
If I would say, so the oscillation cutting is basically the rotation of the spindle is actually timed to the feed movement back and forth. So it's not just a PEC cycle where you're pecking back and forth. It's actually, it knows where the zero pulse is of that motor at a very high RPM, and it actually reads this very quickly. And it basically feeds past your end feed point and then backs up a little bit, creates an air cut, and comes back in and cuts that peak off of the last rotation. So, and this all happens very quickly, which is what creates that low frequency.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Cool. That's neat technology.
Yeah.
Next question. How long of a remnant will you have with the adjustable guide bushing?
So your remnant length will actually increase by about 30 millimeters from a standard Sagami electronic guide bushing. So it's anywhere from, on the 20 millimeter models, it's 25 millimeters longer. On the 38 millimeter models, it's 30 millimeters longer. So it's anywhere from 25 to 30 millimeters longer. And that's just the nature of the beast when you add an air cylinder to the back of the guide bushing motor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. Another question, if you purchase a used Tsugami, what support for training, programming, if never used a Swiss before? And I would say if you purchased a used Tsugami, depends on who you bought it from, for one. If it was included in the price, maybe from us or somebody else, then probably training would be provided. However, if you didn't, my guess would be that there's training is not provided with a used machine. But if you'd like for us or somebody else to help train you, we're more than happy to. Let's see. I think, unless I missed any, I think that's about it. Yeah, I think, Amanda, unless I'm missing something, I think that's it, huh?
That looks about right.
Yeah. Well, Guys, we're just about 15 minutes in. Hopefully it was a very good educational seminar webinar for you today. We really enjoyed putting it together. Scott, you did an awesome job. Thank you for your video, and our team as well. Thank you guys for everything you've done. Customers, thank you very much for all the interaction. The questions are really good questions. You know what? I think I might have another question. Okay, I have a question here about how do we run Tsugami's unattended? And then what are various levels of turnkeys available through RIM sales? So we can run with bar feeders on a Tsugami. We can run with robots. We can run with robots and bar feeders on the same machine. There's all kinds of things we can do to run unattended. And from what I've seen, is usually one operator can run 3 or 4 machines. And that's not an overselling statement. That's just typical. And anybody else, John or Stefan, would you guys mind commenting on maybe automating Tsagamis and how they run unattended?
We have a variety of different customers that are running the machines different ways, Greg. Like you said, we have a lot of aerospace customers using robots, and they typically will buy a software package called Karen Engineering, and it'll monitor every single spindle in the machine. And most of those customers are machining Inconel A286, and that's the most amazing thing, is being able to do the high exotic type materials that are tough on tools. So they typically will stop the machine if a tool breaks, or if a tool's starting to get dull, it'll actually slow the feed rate down. So that's a software that works fantastic with the machine for tools. Typically running unattended, if you don't have any tool life issues, the machine will run all night long as you don't have any chip wrap, and that's where oscillation cutting comes in fantastic to keep the machine running and keep the birds' nests away from the tools. So those are the typical applications. And then the bar feeds typically will run 12 1-inch bars. So depending on your cycle time, most of the time you could run unattended all night, at least 8 hours.
Yep. Thanks, John. Matt, can you comment on the various levels of turnkeys offered by RIM sales, from a small, couple $1,000 turnkey to expansive and crazy science projects?
Yeah, sure. So we do a lot of different turnkeys. We do what's called turnkey light, which, like you said, would be a few $1,000s, where we will take a customer's part, we'll program it, and we'll help them set it up. Those are typically simpler parts. They're not very involved or very technical. And then we have turnkeys we provide for customers that get a little bit more involved. They're called or I call them a level 2 turnkey. It's something, it's 1 or 2 parts that a little more difficult, and that we would go in and talk with the customer and figure out all the tooling and the programs and the work holding, and go ahead and write a program and help them set their machines up. And then there's what I call the big turnkeys, where it's families of parts, macro programming, where literally the operator or the customer can go in and type in one number, and they can make a family of parts with that by macro variable programming. So you can run a whole family of parts by changing one macro. So so it ranges from very, very easy to very complex turnkeys. So they can be very inexpensive, or they can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, which we've done for some large companies.
Yeah. And we've seen recently of a person wants to get into Swiss and hasn't had a Swiss before. They're in conventional machines. They want to get into it, and it might be just easier for them just to buy a turnkey, because then they're making parts, and then they kind of learn as things go. And we've recently seen one in the St. Louis trade area, where a customer took a part that was running about 6 minutes on a conventional CNC and brought it down to under about a minute and a half, and really made him a lot of money. So, and that really wasn't an expensive turnkey, and it got him going, and it was kind of like a no risk, almost kind of guarantee. So we see that kind of stuff quite a bit.
Yep. Yeah, that's a huge time savings right there.
Yeah, exactly. I think that wraps us up, guys and gals, for the Q&A section. Again, thank you for everybody's time. We had at one point in time over 60 people on the line, so there's definitely a lot of interest in Swiss turning and Tsugami, and just want to say thanks to everybody. Again, in a couple weeks, we're going to have the Gosker Load and Go automation on the Akumas, and look forward to sharing that with you too. But until then, thank you all for your time. Hopefully you like the game-changing technology that we brought to you today, and we look forward to bringing you more in the near future. So thanks again, everybody, and take care.